what Twitter is, by the way. Twitter is one of those things that is widely misunderstood. Twitter, a lot of people think, Twitter, isn't that where people like write really short messages about what they had for breakfast? Possibly, but let me explain something about Twitter. If you're on Twitter and you see somebody that says something like, I just had a cheese sandwich, that's your fault. Don't follow that person, right? Follow people who put interesting things out there. That's part of the goal. So as you see up there, we've got my rather mouthful of a title going on, and then there's my name. Nextvista.org is the little nonprofit charity I run. Sometimes I think of it as a very nonprofit, but there you go. And under that, that's me on Twitter at RushtonH, and then at TechConnect20. And so as you're kind of exploring some things this morning, if one of the things you do is you get on Twitter.com and you start following these things, I don't know how to do it. Try it out. You'll figure it out. It's all good. All right, you'll be fine. All good there. You will note also that anything that I've got up that is something that I pulled from online is going to be cited, because that's the way one should do it. Just saying. All right, so with all of that, I want to say it's time. And as those of you who listened to John yesterday would know, it's time for a... You thought they were over yesterday, not a chance. But I'm actually completely in line with John and his thinking on this. If a feel-good keynote is really just there to make you say, oh, everything's great, sweetness and light, that's no good. On the other hand, if what I can do is show you different things that allow you to see some possibilities that you haven't seen before, that feels good to me. All right, and so that's what I'm shooting for as we go through this. Just in case my presentation bores the living daylights out of you, two things that you're going to need real quick. Well, at the top, nextvista.org/resources. That is something I have been pulling together for years, all right? Finding really, really cool free technologies that will be useful to teachers and schools. And so it's divided up. It's not just links. I have a little bit there that explains each one, because I think that's kind of a good idea as well. But feel free to go there if at any point, I begin to lose you. Now, in talking about free tools, let me just check with you on something real quick. Why are free tools important? Somebody like, we ain't got no money, that's why. That's actually reason number two. Our anemic budgets are reason number two that free tools are important. Reason number one is because if you use free tools in your classroom, the kids can go home and use the same tools without any barrier of cost, assuming they have an internet-connected computer, that kind of thing. So, my goal is for you to be using things that the kids have access to, can get really excited about things like that. Now, the second link down there, the todaysmeet.com, that is a chat. It's a chat room. You're like, what? What? You're presenting to us and you're giving us a chat room? Surely you are interaction of the highest order. Possibly, right? However, everybody look my way for a moment. Even if that's a painful experience for you, I want you to look my way for just a moment, right? Whatever I present this morning hopefully has value to you. But the truth is that I am only one voice in this room, and there's incredible talent sitting all through the room. And as I say something, you might say, that would work really well with our fourth graders. And you tweet something out, you say, wouldn't this be cool with this project? And something like that. And you might be over here tweeting that out or putting it in the chat. And someone over here reads that, and it becomes the most important thing they get out of the entire conference. You see what I'm saying? It's that sharing of ideas that makes technology in this kind of setting something really, really powerful for us individually, professionally. So, those two links. I hope you've got them. About to go on. Hope you don't mind. Here we go. All right, moving on. So, now here's a thought for you. And this is a thought that you might say, I don't know about this. But my thought is this. There has never been a better time to be a teacher. I know that sounds crazy in a lot of ways. I mean, I understand the political environment we work in. I understand the oppressive, simplistic accountability systems we deal with. I understand, and yet, I think it's the best time ever to be a teacher. Why? Because through technologies, we are able to connect with our colleagues around the world instantaneously. Because we are able to connect our students to possibilities for their futures that they hadn't dreamed of. That's why I say it is such a good time. And yet, the mere mention of the word technology can take perfectly normal teachers and turn them into total stress cases, right? Happens all the time. And why is that the case? Well, it's the case for several reasons, one of which is things change so rapidly now. How many of you find it stressful that things change so rapidly, right? You know, that's a bit of an are you paying attention question, I figure, right? But the thing about rapid change is that it carries with it a lot of possibility for attention and a lot of possibility for learning opportunities as well. Because when I think about rapid change, I think about it in the context on the stressful side of, wow, we are the first group of teachers not to know what our students' futures will look like. We don't know. We don't know what they will face. Because who could have predicted 10 years ago what we would be dealing with now? People with like tablets, this kinds of things, social media, all of this stuff. The changing environment, not just in terms of like learning devices, but in terms of what's going on with our economy and our society, it's a profound set of changes, and consequently, that's stressful. But in that, I want to try this. I want to try an experiment. So I am going to chant some lyrics. If you know the lyrics, I want you to join me, right? If you don't, that's okay. Or if you do but don't want to chant, that doesn't make you a bad person. It's all good. All right, but if you know them, just join in. So you ready? All right. Come and listen to a story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground came a bubbling crude. Oil, that is, black gold, Texas tea. Stop. The young people in the room are like, what just happened? Right? I went to a tech thing and it got all culty on me, What's the show? What's the show? The Beverly Hillbillies, right? Late 60s, early 70s. Some of you are like, I wasn't born until the 90s, sorry, all right? But it's a show about a family that is very, very poor, and then suddenly they become very, very wealthy. There is a profound set of changes in their life circumstances. And they move from a place of familiarity to a place of unfamiliarity. But it doesn't change who they are. If anything, the wonderful pieces of who they are enrich the new environment. The lesson for us as teachers in technology, I think, is obvious, and I think it applies. Right? I think this is a wonderful time for us to be looking at possibilities for our schools and getting excited, right? Because I'm not going to spend a bunch of time today talking about the system. The system, whatever. Our work matters every day. Every single day. You walk into that classroom, some kid walks in and you look and you see it in their face. You know that your work matters every day. You could have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed. You could be in a total bad mood. You didn't get your caffeine. You walk in, you're like, arr, arr, arr. Kid walks in and you say, hey, how you doing this morning? And the face brightens up and you know that you just did good that day. That's the work we do. Now that's exciting, right? And yet, everybody think for a minute. What's the one word that most likely would come to the lips of a child when asked to describe school? Boring. Boring. There's like two first grade teachers that were like, wonderful, right? Everybody else, Somewhere along the way we kind of get them all jaded, right? But yeah, boring. And they think school is boring. And they're lying. It's just this default response. They like school. You've got to be kidding me. They like school. They like being with their friends. They like being around caring adults who don't tend to freak out. You know what I'm talking about? A lot of these kids go home, and at home, And so being in an environment where somebody believes in them. Sometimes teachers are those kind individuals who put up with their mediocrity. And there's a little social thing there that's like, I appreciate that they do that. There's something about teaching that's just fascinating and will be no matter how much tech we have in the room or how little. Because that's what we do. Now, the issue with the word boring is that they're using it in place of another word. And I think that word is predictable. I think kids find school predictable. That they walk in and they kind of know what's coming. And that, in turn, puts them in kind of a lower gear. But I suspect that if we can make things a little different in moving them and our colleagues from the familiar to the unfamiliar, we can begin to make a difference. I talk about this a lot. The power of images. Because if I tell you I'm going to explain something to you, whether that's multiplying binomials or haiku poetry or cell division or the difference between por and para or whatever it may be, right? Causes of the Industrial Revolution. If I'm just going to talk, they've done it before. They've experienced it before. Is there anything wrong with lecturing? Actually, I believe no, unless taken to an extreme, which doesn't take much. So when we say something like, I'm going to show you an image, now you've got their attention. And attention matters, because we can't teach them squat if they're not paying attention. You've probably heard colleagues say this, I don't know what's wrong with these kids, I taught it to them, right? And you're like, yeah, there was broadcast, no reception, right? We're responsible for a little reception, at least some. But we can engineer that. We can engineer it through things like digital media and the power of the unpredictable. That whole sense of, what's coming up right now? I don't know. He's going to show us a picture. He's going to play a piece of audio. He's going to show us a video. I don't know what's coming. That's interesting. That's not boring. Now, it may be boring a few seconds into it, but we're getting them started. We're getting those moments where something happens. Now, I want to talk about this in a couple of different ways, right? I'm going to show you a couple of pictures because in moving from the familiar to the unfamiliar, with all of the kinds of special technologies that we have now, I think what we are doing is we are working to do that which we've always done, which is to face the challenge of the unfamiliar and to see what we can do about it, to see what's possible. Working with challenge is exciting. There's a group of teachers I had the very good fortune to work with in April. I took a team to the Philippines, to Dagupan in Pangasinan, all right, and worked with 106 teachers there. Now, I want you to understand this was a challenging environment. It was wickedly hot with little to no AC. There was not enough room for everybody there. The power fluctuated, inconvenient for a technology gig. The Wi-Fi was kind of weak to non-existent. One morning, just for good measure, there was an earthquake, all right? And yet, 106 teachers, 2 weeks of that, not a single complaint. Not one. They were staying up till 2, 3, and 4 in the morning working on things that we'd give them to do. And are they talking about, oh, these people, blah, blah, blah? No. They were putting things in the hashtag, that we were using as part of that thing. I kid you not, this was one of the things that one of them said. Thank God for these 4 angels he sent us. Whoa! That's the kind of thing that makes you stop and go, man, am I doing a good job or not? Am I? Am I coming to this table to do what I can do for these people? Because we face the same thing every time we walk in the classroom. Those kids walk in there, are you doing the job you can for them, right? And we can get inspired. We can get inspired by the people we work with, by the kids that we teach. But we have to get them into a place where they feel comfortable doing really interesting things. That's where I'm going with a lot of this. This inspires me. I don't know if you can see that really well. This is a school under a freeway bridge in Delhi, in India. I find these kids inspiring. See, they got their bicycles off to the side. They're there with their notes. I'm inspired by these teachers. They show up under a bridge to teach kids. We've got kind of a pseudo blackboard thing over there to work with them. Sometimes I think my circumstances are kind of challenging. Well, right? That amazes me, that kind of dedication. Sometimes images are there simply to remind us what's important, like this one. Sometimes they don't need commentary, do they? There is so much that allows us to take what we are learning through the power of media, through the power of technology, to share interesting ideas and experiences, what people face in their lives, to use it as the kind of teaching that gets kids excited about the future. There is so much. How do we react to images? A lot of you probably look at this particular image and say, Photoshop, right? But actually, it's a real picture. How would you find out? Here's a Google map of St. Martin in the Caribbean, and you can tell from the runway that they used every last inch of space they could right up into that last little beach right there. I think that's pretty cool. Now, I don't know if you can see those images really well, but here's what I want you to do for just a moment. See if you can see any patterns. Do you see any patterns in those pictures? Talk with the person next to you. Go. Just some thoughts. What patterns do you see, if any? Right? Just any.
Like in each picture, it's kind of like decreasing to increasing. Like something is in the front, and then there's always something in the back. But the something in the front always looks like maybe a little bigger.
So there's a sense of increase to decrease or decrease to increase happening to kind of draw attention to that spectrum that could be happening in each picture. Nice. Very cool. All right, what else? What else we got? Yes? A lot of horizontal lines, a lot of vertical lines. Okay, so you're seeing that almost geometrically in that sense. Nice. What else? What else do you see?
They all have a story.
They all have a story. Images are like that, huh? Yeah, there's so much that's possible with images. So much that we can do with them. Matter of fact, I'll tell you why I have these pictures. But first, I want to draw your attention to the question I asked. I didn't ask you what's the pattern. What's the pattern that I use to get to engineer this set of pictures? Because there's just one right answer for that question. And that's not all that interesting. Your thoughts about what patterns may be there, that's very interesting, right? How we ask questions in class is huge in terms of the value of the responses we get from the students. If we challenge them to come up with one correct answer, you're going to have a bunch of people going, I'll wait. Somebody will come up with it, probably that kid over there, right? On the other hand, if you're just curious where they are in their thinking, they'll give you all kinds of good stuff. Now, it happens that these are all pictures related to vocabulary I teach as a Japanese language teacher, right? So up in the top, there's a bunch of pictures related to transportation, like boat and train and taxi. And then as you go a little farther, there's a bunch of pictures related to different college majors, because in Japanese one of the things we did was say, okay, you're going to introduce like a sibling. My older sister is a student at Berkeley. She majors in chemistry. That kind of stuff. So I teach them to do that in Japanese. And then we get a little farther. There's a bunch of different adjectives, including, like pretty and handsome, and you can use that in kind of in the next level. Do you think she's pretty? Do you think he's handsome? What do you think his story is, right? These kinds of questions become really powerful with images. So that's why I have them. And all of you who teach vocabulary, which is pretty much all teachers, all right, can use images to draw attention to vocabulary in ways that simple discussion of ideas may not capture in terms of like excitement for the kids. I'll show you this one. Now, let me explain a bit about these two pictures. I often present to teachers. That's kind of the main thing I do. I present to teachers. But sometimes I present to students. I'll go to a school, and the idea for the school is we want you presenting to students because we want them to creatively advocate for possibilities for learning in our school. We want them to be talking about technology possibilities at our school. I like doing that a lot, so I take them through creativity exercises, taking you through one right now. There are two pictures here. I hope you can see them. Come up with the person you talked to a minute ago, person or people you talked to a minute ago, come up with a story that combines the picture on the left with the picture on the right. Go. How many of you just heard something cool from the person next to you? How many of you heard that? How many of you are thinking, hey, wait a minute, I just told the person next to me something cool and he or she didn't raise a hand. What's going on with that? right? So were this a longer setting, I'd actually pull these out of you. I love to hear the stories. I love to have people look at pictures and say, I think this is the story that combines these two. When I was presenting to a group of students last September in Milan, Italy, and by the way, when they said, we'd like you to present at the school, I said, oh, I'd be happy to. Where's your school? Milan, Italy. I'm like, oh, twist my arm. All right. I guess I could do something there. When I did that and I showed them these pictures, I got a lot of things you'd expect. I mean, you know, things like, oh, okay, so this on the left, this is a magic train, and it'll take you wherever you want to go. And that guy in the middle, he wants to go there because that's where he grew up, and blah blah blah. You know, I mean, there's lots of cool stories. But shortly after lunch, maybe not. Maybe causal that, right? Shortly after lunch, I got this new group of 50 students in the room. I've got them in groups, and they're coming up with stories for these two pictures. And I say, okay, well, you know, share the story you got. And this group back here, this one kid stands up. I said, what's your story? And he says, well, you see the picture on the left? That's the present. And the picture on the right, that's the past. And in the past, they dreamed of being able to travel on things like trains. But in the present, they dream of the peace and simplicity of the past. Cool! You know, I couldn't contain myself. I was like, that's fantastic. Oh, man, that's awesome. Who else? Psh, you know, nobody, right? Later that day, I am presenting to their teachers, telling them what I've been doing with the students all day, right? And I tell them that story about the present and the past. Their teachers at the Collegio San Carlo in Milan, Italy, their teachers responded to that by bursting into applause. That was their response to the creativity of their kids. And I'm sitting there thinking, whoa, this is cool. Followed, of course, by, wow, at the school where I last taught, when's the last time we did that? Are we so into the right answer that we can't foster some great answers? You know what I mean? We have such opportunities to let their creativity show the talent that they've got. And how often do we take those opportunities? How often do we take them? Now, you're going to have a lot of opportunities today to explore some possibilities in that realm. I hope that you're going to go into the fall thinking, we're going to generate some very cool thoughts this year. Because you can. They are thinking these things. They are. They're good at looking like they are not, but they are. Right? That's who they are. That's what they do. But it's about our work. Because we need those kinds of responses, those kinds of cool ideas to reinvigorate us, ourselves. We need to see this wonderful set of possibilities from these students to remind ourselves of why we're there and that we can do a really good job. We can. But it can be hard. I'm inspired by a lot of amazing teachers that I've met through the Krause Center of Innovation. The Krause Center of Innovation is at Foothill College in Los Altos Hills. And there's a program at the Krause Center. Here's another picture of the Krause Center. Cool. All right. The Krause Center runs a program every year called Merit, Making Education Relevant and Interactive Through Technology. I didn't name it, but it's a program where you apply, and if you are accepted, so the application period runs from like early November to mid-January. They choose the people who will take part in February. If you're accepted, you're with the cohort for a year. And you do a kind of a hybrid, meeting online class in the spring. That's a preparation class for the big gig, which is in the summer. It's called the Summer Institute. It's like Teacher Technology Fun Summer Camp is what it is, right? And they share ideas and learn all kinds of things, and they design the cool stuff that they're going to do with their students that fall. And then they work together in the fall and the winter quarters, looking at the stuff they've done, learning some more things. It's an amazing program. I hope you will give that a look. If later on you can't find the link or something like that, email me and I'll get you that link. But this is one of those programs. We'd love to have some more folks from the Sacramento area. That would really, really be cool to have y'all in the program. I'm inspired by all kinds of things, right? I should tell you actually about some of the teachers in the merit program, now that I think about it. There's a teacher, for example, named Lisa Heifel, who was in the program in 2010. She decided, you know, I'm just going to do BYOD in my classroom. The school hadn't decided to do it. The district hadn't decided to do it. They were worried about other things. Had kind of an interesting school board. That never happens, right? But she said, I'm going to do it. She said, guys, if you have something that can connect to the internet, feel free to bring it in. Was it one-to-one? No, it wasn't actually. It was BYOD, but it wasn't one-to-one because some of the kids didn't have stuff to bring in. But what she did was she took advantage of the variety of things in the classroom to say, okay, you know, let's all take a look at this kind of thing. Who can see it? Okay, these folks can. Okay, we'll gather around them. She just makes it work. She's amazing, right? That she would be able to take that kind of thing and teach kids to be device agnostic, as Mark Allen in the UK puts it, is, I think, incredibly helpful. One of her colleagues at the same elementary school in Pleasanton is a woman named Nicole D'Alessio, also a merit program person, who does all this really, really interesting work with images and digital art to get them to kind of bring that creativity out of themselves. She actually, if you're an Instagram person, you really should be following her. She does amazing work. Her name is Magrela Canella. I mean, it's a long story. All right, but if you're interested in that, you know, email me. I will get that to you so that you can follow her work as well. There's a teacher in the same cohort named Meg Omansky. She's a librarian at Gunn High School, and in her merit year, she launched a thing called STEM Slam, where she encouraged kids to make cool, fun videos describing STEM concepts, and they talked about them in the library. And they could do this stuff in the library because she brought in a bunch of computers into the library that kids could check out, a bunch of iPads in the library that kids could check out. There were people like, what? You're going to have the kids do it? She's like, yes. And the circulation at that school went from last in the district to first in the district in 3 months. Kids go there and they come together and they share ideas, and it's amazing. Why? Because a teacher is cutting them loose to be creative, right? This guy named Jim Friedman in that same cohort. He teaches kids who have a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties. And he did what he called an eBay project. And they brought different things in, right, that they were going to sell on eBay. And so the kids had to learn to take pictures of those items to put on eBay in such a way that people would actually be interested in the items. And then they had to do the writing related to writing it up so that people would be interested in buying them. And they sold them, and they raised a bunch of money, half of which they gave to charity and half of which they used for something at the school. Talk about authentic learning. There's a lot of room to be inspired by what's going on around us. There are probably teachers at your school doing fascinating things and you don't know about it. Is that your fault? No, it's because we at schools often are kind of like, no, don't tell about the good things going on. That's bragging. Oh, there's a great way to improve the system right there, right? We need to be talking about our successes, our failures, and saying, how can we make them better? How can we do this more? How can we get this to more kids? I leave the day after tomorrow for Mexico. I'm going down to Mexico to the state of Colima because there's a program down there that does amazing work with kids who materially don't have squat. They help them get education. And I went down last year so that we could work together. By the way, Colima is right, well, there, all right? In order to help a lot of those kids learn to make videos. And they made great videos. Here's a biographical one that a kid made about Tatiana. Tatiana's amazing. She's amazing. She doesn't have a lot of stuff, but she's got incredible hope. She's got goals. And you know, I showed this video to kids in places where they've got plenty materially. And what did those kids do when they saw the video? They said, wow, she seems to be very happy. She doesn't have much, but she seems to be very happy. Stuff does not make us happy, even tech stuff. But there's something about getting in touch with our possibilities that makes the difference. They also made a set of videos about each letter of the Spanish alphabet. The videos are pictures like that one. There are horses in the streets in the town of Cofradía. So they're like, sí, you know, sé de caballo, right? And it's their voices, not mine, right? And their pictures and their videos about the different letters of the Spanish alphabet can be helping kids around the world learn to read in Spanish. I love that a bunch of very poor kids in the state of in rural Colima, Mexico, could be creating something that kids in Beverly Hills could be using to learn from. I love that. If you're interested in this kind of thing, stay in touch with me for sure, because there's so many different project possibilities that you might want to get involved with. Whether it's a literacy project like that, telling about your school as a part of connecting with a school in another place, telling about your community, what about the community is encouraging, inspiring to kids. There's stuff there. It's also about confidence. This is my little nonprofit right here, Next Vista for Learning, all right? It's a nonprofit. It's an online library of videos made by and for teachers and students everywhere, free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from, all for a student audience, all 5 minutes or less, all copyright-friendly content, all cited. Thank you very much, right? It's my own little attempt to save the world, right? One creative video at a time, right? There you go, right? And we have these different collections. So the light bulbs, it is all of the different things you teach. There's over 100 careers videos in it. I hope you'll give them a look, right? A number of them are in Spanish. I'm really proud of those. Global views about different parts of the world from the eyes of the young, right? Seeing service about the joy and meaning that comes from helping someone else. It's not just a graduation requirement. It's a way to live. And I want to work with you. I want to work with you to get more videos up there. We've got about 1,000 something up there now, right? But we want more. We want stories from you and your kids as well. Hope you'll get involved with that. And here we are today talking about mobile devices. It is awfully easy now to get everything you need to make a cool video because of mobile devices. And because you can create cool videos, now you can tell stories. Now they can build their confidence in what they know and what they can teach. What a time. A few years ago, it was just, oh, well, we got iPads and Apple reaching into our wallets every day. Well, yeah, fine, right? But now we've got all kinds of things. All kinds of things. We're not limited to just, the high-end schools' budgets to being able to do this. There's lots that's possible now. I like that a lot. I like that this possibility for active learning. You think about, the woman I told you about a minute ago, Lisa, and her Bring Your Own Device program in her classroom, in her 5th grade classroom. There's so much that's possible. And I think that what we're dealing with is that sense of what we know is out there with the devices, with the technologies, and we have this vision for what's possible. Now it's time to do something with the vision. You might say, why is that slide up there? I'm about to show you a video. And you've probably seen the main guy who appears in this video before. Because after YouTube hit it big, there was a viral video about this guy who was going around the world, and in front of various famous places, he was doing this kind of funky little dance, right? And so each clip of the video was just him in some different part of the world doing a funky little dance. And he got called up by a company that said, hey, we'll pay you to go around the world and do that dance. And he's like, how much better could my life be? And he did this for a couple of years, and then he turned to his significant other and said, maybe there's something more we can do with this. Maybe we can do something with this. And so they came up with this video last year, and I want to share it with you now. Because I think it's a wonderful example of how to take vision and to make something new and unusual out of it. What do you think? I contacted Matt Harding about this video. I said, I want to use it in like presenting to teachers. He's like, sure. Awesome. He wrote back. Cool. There is something about that video that I find so appealing. Something about the feel-good nature of it. When John talked yesterday about no more feel-good keynotes, I know what he meant, and I agree. But there's also something about seeing something like this that makes us feel inside what's possible. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. This is how to stay in touch with me. My email at the top, my little nonprofit, nextvista.org, right under that. I'm at Rushton H at Twitter. I was a little late to Instagram, so I'm at Rushton was taken at Instagram, right? There you go. My resources page there, and then finally a newsletter. I send out a newsletter once a month that tells about free resources I've run across, cool videos we've added to the site, stuff that I find inspiring in some fashion. And I finish it each month as I'll finish this keynote now. May you inspire and be inspired daily. Thank you very much for having me here.